Hey, fellow Texans, Gwen here again with Texans Defending Democracy. So, today we have an interview that we have been looking forward to. We always want to hear from those who we elected to serve us in the state legislature. And so, we are fortunate to have Representative Salman Bhojani join us. And we're going to go ahead and get to that right now.
My name is Salman Bhojani. Like you said, I'm a state representative. I represent 6 cities right now: Hearst, Euless, Bedford, Arlington, Grand Prairie, and a little part of Fort Worth. And it's been an honor to represent all Texans. My start in America was far from being glamorous. I worked at gas stations, mopping floors for $6 an hour, stocking shelves, and just cleaning restrooms. Then worked my way up, becoming a cashier, then a manager, and then bought my first gas station in 2003, and then had multiple gas stations when I decided to go to law school at SMU in the evening. And so went to my business in the morning and then worked or went to law school in the evening. Took four long years, but I'm really blessed to have family support that took care of my kids and other needs so that way I could just focus on studying law and the businesses. And then when I became an attorney, I met Representative Rafael Lancia, who sat right next to me at Haynes and Boone. I worked at Haynes and Boone, and he said, as attorneys, it behooves us to give back to our community. And so, upon his insistence, I started to I applied to be on the Parks Board in my city of Euless, and I've lived there for multiple years. And I moved to Texas, moved to Euless because of the beautiful parks it had. So served on Parks Board for 3 years, and then ran for city council because I felt like 2016 had happened, and we elected our current president at that time, and he was spewing hateful speech about people that pray like me and people that look like me as immigrants, and I felt that was not right direction for America. And so I felt like we didn't have a seat at the table. We were on the menu, and people attacked us all the time. And I mean, I had two options, right? Just complain like the rest of the community on the sidelines, or actually get involved and have a seat at the table and do what Mahatma Gandhi said, right? Be the change that you want to see in the world. And so I said, okay, I put my name in the hat in 2017 to run for city council, as you know, and I lost. I went against a well-liked incumbent, and that was my first time running ever. And I think more people need to hear that it is okay if you don't win your first time, and it happens to every one of us. Failure is part of life, and that's how you can appreciate success if you have failed in the past. And I have failed many, many, many times. And let me just say that. But people look at your accomplishments and say, oh, look at how many great things he's doing. But they don't know all the failures I've been through. And so I just want to let people know as well that failures are an important part of it. But I continued the journey in 2018 and ran again. And as you noted, got a lot of Islamophobic attacks and a lot of bigotry and stuff. And we can talk about that later. But, again, eventually won my seat in 2018 by only 37 votes and made history by being the first minority ever elected in the history of city of Euless. And it still gives me chills because I didn't realize how big of a jump that was until later on. And, I did everything possible I could, raise the most amount of money, knocked on 5,000 doors, made 10,000 phone calls, and yet only by 37 votes in a city that's 60,000 population. But again, blessed to have made that history. And then after 3 long years on serving on city council, I had really enjoyed it. I had really amazing time. I was also elected mayor pro tem by the city of Euless city council members, and then ran for state house and again made history this time around. Not by 37 votes, but we won by 60% and made history by being the first Muslim and the first South Asian ever elected in the history of the state of Texas, to the Texas legislature. And so that was an honor as well. And since then, I've just been trying to balance my work, my family, and my state duties, which has been really difficult. I'll tell you that. And if you ask all these three vectors, I mean, I'm not doing a good job of any one of them, but maybe slightly better on the state side because that's my passion. So I end up sort of working more on the state side.
Oh, well, I bet you are succeeding at all three of them. So, because I know you, so you are what we would call the American dream.
I'm blessed to have lived the American dream. Absolutely.
Right. So you worked hard to get here. It's quite a journey that you took, but thank you so much for taking it.
Yeah, and again, kudos to my family, the community, and everybody that has helped me. It is not a one-person journey at all, and I think I want to highlight more often than not. And sometimes, it's difficult when people work hard, and you don't control your result. You just control the work ethic. So that's what I've tried to do. But God has been, really gracious to me, and I feel like sometimes more than I deserve. But if He wants to do it, I'll continue on His path.
Let him do it. There you go. There you go. So let's talk about you making history as a state legislator. You were one of the first two Muslims elected, and South Asians
Right.
elected to serve in the state legislature. What did that moment mean to you personally? What did it mean to your family, and also the communities that you serve?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was running, like I said, in both these positions, in Euless City Council and in the state rep position, I had no idea that I would be making history. The goal was not to say, hey, look at me, I'll be the first South Asian, look at me, I'm the first Muslim. That was not the goal. The goal was to improve our state, to move our state forward, and to see what we can make a positive impact in our state or city. uh, it's only based on after running for office, campaigns are much longer in the state. It was like a 2-year
Yeah,
campaign. And then I realized, this is something really historic I had no idea about. So make sure first is, having the right heart in the right place, right? Every candidate should
right.
have the heart in the right place to make sure they are trying to make a positive impact, and it's not
Yeah,
self-serving, or it's not because I'm part of this minority group or that minority group, then that's there. And then second part is like inspiring others to say, hey, what can y'all do the same thing? Because again, being the first is great, but it's
yeah,
not the best thing. You don't want to be the last. You want to try to have multiple people come after
right,
you, and that's what I focus on a lot, is how do I inspire the next generation of youth from those communities to say, hey, not only from the Muslim and South Asian communities, but also from the communities to say, like, can we have the first Nigerian American elected? Can we have the first Hindu
right.
American elected to the Texas legislature? Like, there are multiple communities that are still not represented, and it's really unfortunate that we're in 2025 and we have multiple communities still don't have a seat at the table. And that's what it meant more to me, where it's amazing that I made history, but at the end of the day, like, how does that help others? And there's also one thing that I always keep in my back of mind, right? Whatever I'm doing, if I do a great job, they'll say, oh, Representative Bojani did such a great job. But if I do a bad job, they'll say, oh, this Muslim or this South Asian. And so I have that in my back of mind, that I want to make sure that our community is represented well. And it'll be based on the decisions I make or the actions that I take. So I want to be very respectful of people. And so somebody says it, because I meet people in the House floor, they've never met a Muslim in their life. They've never met a South Asian in their life, because they come from rural districts in the state of Texas.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There's
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, Texas, where it's a very rural population. Homes are spread out. There's not a lot of community members from my community there. And so when they meet me, they're like, oh, you're pretty normal, right? And I feel like they're trying to. There may be some notion of what a Muslim should look like or what a South Asian should look like, and I think I'm trying to
Mm.
integrate our communities together and say we're all Texans. The one commonality we have. We're all Americans. Let's work for other Americans, and that's another thing that I've always tried to look at. Because I'm South Asian and because I'm Muslim, I can tend to only do things Muslims or South Asian, but I don't do that. I try to make sure that I represent them, but I'm also representing every community in the state of Texas, because I'm here for all Texans, not just. And in fact, if you look at my own district, 33% is
Diverse.
29% African American, 28% Caucasian. And I think South Asian is like 1 or 2%, Muslims is 1 or 2%. So it's not a huge amount from my own community, but that's okay because I'm representing everybody.
Right. Yeah, that is the point, that you are representing everybody. But I also like how you are able to educate folks who might not have that exposure because they might not live in a big city. Like I would have never thought that a rural representative, you would be the first Muslim they met. That's just. But
Yeah.
yeah, it does make sense, and you have that opportunity to educate. I'm thinking in this day and time where you had said you want more diverse representation. Do you feel we're going backward?
Because of what's happening in the federal government, you think?
Yes. Do you think
Yeah,
that
I
we're going
mean,
backwards?
there's a lot of anti-DEI legislation that was passed last session in Texas, and you see, the current president also honing in on that issue. And it is unfortunate, right, that the even the big, I think Pentagon, somebody that was leading the Pentagon, they said, oh, he was a DEI hire because he was African American, and I think
Yeah.
that's not the right direction for America. And that's again, I mean, it's sort of it's a reminiscence of what happened in 2016 and 2017, right? Everything else is replaying again. Hate against certain religious group, hate against certain minorities, hate against immigrants. I think we're forgetting that America is built on immigrants, the backs of immigrants, and we everybody here is an immigrant from some place or the other.
Right.
Maybe not this generation, but multiple generations before them. And I think they've forgotten that, and we want to sort of. I try to bring that out as much as possible. What I'm focusing on
Mhm.
is trying to say, hey, look, diversity is our strength. And
Mhm.
diversity does not mean only in ethnicity or religion. Diversity also means in school of thought, or just different
Correct.
perspective that you bring in. So when I ran for Euless City Council, I told them, hey, there's no attorney on City Council. I'm an attorney. I'll bring that perspective. And that's what I call diversity, right? There's nobody on City Council that has young kids. I have young kids. So that's also, I think people forget that diversity is, there's so many aspects of diversity. And
Right.
especially we're breaking down diversity in our colleges, like UT and other institutions in our state. We're saying, hey, no professors on DEI, don't worry about DEI, don't admit people based on DEI. And I feel that's not the right direction for Texas and for America.
I wholeheartedly agree. Yes. So let's talk about your faith. It's very important to you. Um, there was an incident that happened at the Texas chapel. Your Quran, your
Oh, yeah.
family Quran was stolen. Um, and of course, the police did recover that, and they replaced. There was a positive spin on that. The chapel did go ahead and put their own. They do have their own Quran now. Um, but it did raise some serious concerns, like you say, with diversity. So, what was your initial reaction? Because this was a great day for you. You had just been sworn in, and then your Quran was stolen. So, how do you take this diplomatic approach to the climate that
Mm.
you're in, especially when you're dealing with situations like that?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'll tell you first off that it's not easy to have, these kind of things happen to me. But
Hmm.
it's been a
Yeah.
common thread in any time that I've run for public office. Right? Until I was running for public office, everybody, loved thy neighbor. Everything was like really nice and kumbaya. Everybody was doing really well. Until I ran for
Hmm.
office in, city council. Until like I was serving on the park board in the city of Euless, where how was a Muslim allowed to serve that, right? So that was not a big deal. So what I've seen is, so let's come back to this particular instance, right, where I placed the Quran in the chapel, and that was based on one of the staffers that came to me, one of the Muslim staffers at the capital, and said, hey, the month of Ramadan is starting. It's the holiest month in the Muslim calendar, and we want to pray on in the Quran, but in the chapel there's only Bible there. And so, okay, let me try to get permission from House Administration, and I did get permission from House Administration. I really appreciate that, and so we were able to place that. And after a couple of days, that same staffer came back and said, "Hey, that Quran is missing. Did you all take it?" I was like, "No." And so, we reached out to DPS. They looked at the video recording. Who was, and I mean, there are two cameras right there, and so I don't know why would somebody take it. But anyways, so they
Yeah.
came back to say, "Do you want to press charges against this individual that has taken the Quran?" And I said, look, I mean, this is the month of Ramadan. Muslims go out of their way during this month to help people out, help people they don't even know. They're like completely random. And that's exactly what I do as a state representative. Why would I want to press charges during this holy month against somebody who took my, I mean, they've done a sort of a bad act towards me. I understand. But I always go back to the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad, and what I'll give you a quick story. So when Prophet Muhammad, he used to go by a road every day, and there was a house on the second floor, and a lady used to live in that. And every day he would walk by that road, and the lady would throw trash on him. Every That happened day in day out, and then just Prophet would sort of clean himself up and then just continue walking. But he did not change his route to say, oh, I'm going to change my route to say, oh, I'm not going to, so I don't have trash thrown on me. This happened for a long time, and then one day this lady did not throw trash. And so Prophet Muhammad goes up, he takes the time to go upstairs, and this lady is lying on her bed. She's sick, and she's so, like, she's crying. She's not feeling well. So Prophet Muhammad gets a cup of water and goes to her, and gives her a cup of water and prays for her good health. And she's like, oh my God, like, I've thrown trash on you so many days consecutively, and here's what you're showing me so much compassion. And how do you have that? And so that's when she converts into the faith and says, yes, I mean, this is the faith of peace and tolerance. And I don't know how many people even know that the word Islam means peace, right? They don't know. So I feel like whenever there's an opportunity for me to be a little bit 1% of what Prophet Muhammad was, I want to do that, right? So this was an opportunity for me to sort of maybe give her some education, give her some knowledge about what this faith is. And so I said, no, I told DPSA, I don't want to press charges. I just want my Quran back. It's my family Quran. And so if you can have her bring it back, that'd be great. And so she did bring it back. And then I was on the house floor. I came out, my staff called me outside, and she said, here you go, this book has so many bad things about my faith. You can keep it, and don't keep it in the chapel. And so I had a conversation with her. I said, look, let's break this down. So do you even know that the Quran, it has, do you know how many times Jesus Christ is mentioned in the Quran? And she said, I have no idea. So I told her, over 25 times Jesus Christ is mentioned in the Quran, and Prophet Muhammad is mentioned maybe one time only. So we believe in Jesus Christ as a prophet. We believe in his teachings and his character. And if I could be 5% of what Jesus Christ was, I would be a great person. So that's what, and that she was really surprised. Now, she didn't apologize. She didn't say anything else, but at least she was surprised, and she learned that day. And so the more we are compassionate to those people that hate us, I think they will change their mind to say, hey, there's something that is not right. I've given a lot of hate, but they've not given anything back, and they've only given compassion. So they must be having great upbringing. They must be from a better, must good ethics and values. And that's what I want to teach more. And so that's what been my, people, when I took a picture with Imam Omar Suleiman before my Euless City Council run, people told me that he was a terrorist, that I took a picture with a terrorist. So I took the time. I said, look, why do you think he's a terrorist? I could have said, hey, no, I don't want to talk to you. So every time, if there is an opportunity, because I'll tell you one thing, that people are fearful of what they don't know. It's all of us, like me, you. If you don't know something or someone and they come at you, you're always going to be like, hey, is this something danger? Is it risky? And so I think the same thing, when they did not know the faith of Islam is peaceful, or what happens during the month of Ramadan, or what is in the book of Quran, they think that they just don't trust it anymore. So I just try to utilize this situation to educate them more.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. It's
ignorance, basically.
It's an opportunity. Yeah, everything's an opportunity for education.
That's right.
And and it's that.
And you as a teacher know this, right?
You have to, and you have to pounce on those moments every chance you get. Yes. Okay, so I know you're running a little bit short on time, so I want to go ahead.
About 10 more minutes, yeah.
Okay. So the Christian nationalist movement. So we're seeing a lot of that, and it's making a lot of waves here in not only Texas, but in our country. How do you, of course, that is founded on the basis that America was founded as a Christian nation. So we're constantly combating that. How do you target that issue of not only the freedom of religion, but the freedom of, understanding diverse faiths, or perhaps no faiths at all?
Yeah, and I'm trying to do my best in the Texas House to make that prominent in what the work that I do. So I work a lot on religious freedom, right? I had a religious freedom press conference last session where we had filed 3 bills that had to say, hey, all faith traditions should be celebrated, respected, and protected, by making sure if somebody that wants to take off on Eid as a state employee, they should be able to do that. They want to take Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, All Saints Day. So I tried to add every faith tradition's holy days to that bill. It was not just saying, oh, I just want to have people take off during Eid, because that's my faith only. But that doesn't make sense. We should. So whenever I work in sort of the more interfaith way, it's been fruitful. So we did have a bill passed that said there should be no STAR test or end of course exams on any religious holy day. So, we also wanted to have something where rural Texas, if there's nobody that's celebrating Diwali and there are no Hindus, then that's okay. You don't have to do that. But if one student wants to do it, they should be able to take a makeup exam on that day. So that's how we filed it. I'm also establishing a religious freedom caucus in the Texas legislature, made up of senators and House representatives, to work on religious freedoms, because that's such an important topic for us. And religious freedom also has 2 components to it, right? Freedom of religion, that you can practice any religion, or freedom from religion, that you don't have to practice any religion. I think that most people forget the second part of it. But it's just, I think that's where I want to sort of focus on more, or to have a balance, at least, to say, you don't have to belong to religion, and you don't have to have 10 commandments in your classroom, because that's something that you're promoting one faith or the other, right? Is everybody going to be okay if I say, hey, let's put this verse from the Quran in the classroom? People may not like that, but then why 10 commandments? So we're working on a sort of bipartisan and bicameral way on that. We're also doing like an iftar at the Capitol this time, and we did it last time as well, where there were multiple state representatives that's coming in. This time I have a group of 15 state representatives and senators that are co-hosting it with me. And it's here in the Capitol, actually, is next Wednesday, March 5th. And so I feel like I want to continue to bring people together. We're having multiple faith traditions come to their capital in the state of Texas. So we're having a Jewish day at the Capitol, because it's so important to celebrate that diversity and have all the Jewish in the state of Texas who ever come to the Capitol, and we'll celebrate that. We're doing a Hindu day at the Capitol. We're doing a Christian day at the Capitol. We're doing an LDS day at the Capitol. We're doing a Muslim day at the Capitol. We're doing a Jain day, Buddhist day, Zoroastrian day. There's so many religious communities that we want to celebrate, protect, and respect in the state of Texas.
And it's an opportunity to learn more about different faiths. So,
exactly. Yeah. Like people would not know otherwise, like about all the things that are going on. And I think we're going to have like people from their faith leaders, their faith traditions, their faith youth as well, to educate members and their staff members to say, hey, this is what we have in our faith, and that's why it's unique. How many people do you think have heard of the Baha'i faith? It's a very old, 1,000-year-old faith, but people don't know about that. But there's a Baha'i community here, a huge one in Texas, that we will uplift on the Baha'i Day at the Capitol. Or Zoroastrian Day. Actually, honestly speaking, I did not know about the Zoroastrian community until a few years ago. So I'm also learning, and that's the one way that we want to sort of make sure that everybody's respected. And we also respect atheists. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I think it's more about the person. It's more about that we're in Texan. We have so much more in common. Let's focus on that.
Yeah, everyone in all these faiths, or if you don't worship from a particular pew, they tend to all follow the golden rule. So exactly. There's always some form of that in every faith. And so if we
love thy neighbor, I always say love thy neighbor is repeated so many scriptures all around the world in so many different faith leaders, faith traditions.
Right. Absolutely. So if we could just love our neighbor, everything would be just we could get so much more accomplished and so much more representation as far as at the state legislature as well. Now, let's just talk a little bit about your priorities. I know I really appreciate the video you did on vouchers and making sure that we have your support for public education. Can you explain a little bit on that? But also, can you kind of connect it to your recent, you were appointed vice chair of DOGE.
Right.
And I know a lot of Texans have concerns that what's happening at the national level of DOGE, which is an executive order, might transition down here to the Texas DOGE committee. So can you elaborate on that, the differences between the two, and also just how will this affect public education?
Sure. No. So voucher and DOGE. So let me start with DOGE. That's in my mind as well. I was appointed a vice chair of DOGE, which is, really honor for me to serve. We are not going to be like the federal DOGE, right? Okay. Federal DOGE is run by people who are not elected, people who may have all the time in the world to just go out, slash departments, slash budgets and all that. We are elected officials. We are held to a higher status, higher accountability, and we are going to be more surgical and more thoughtful and analytical in our approach. You cannot cut anything until you first study it to understand, is this going to have a detrimental impact or is it going to be having a positive impact? And you cannot do that where we're in full swing in the session. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't know how much we can get accomplished during the session, but something we can take on during the interim, where we don't have the hustle and bustle of the session. So we'll most likely have bills referred to our committee, just like any other committee operates, right? Okay. We have bills that will be referred. We'll review those bills, invite testimony from the public, and ask them, hey, is this a good idea or not a good idea? And then we can, on our own, we have certain commissions under us or agencies like Sunset Commission, the Space Commission, and the Department of Information Resources and all that. So we can call them up and say, hey, let's first figure out how do we even go about it. But I think the bottom line is what I'm really interested in is using technology, especially emerging technology like blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing to be able to make government efficient, right? So I'll give you a quick example. So first of all, my undergraduate degree at UT Dallas, University of Texas at Dallas, is MIS. And what I did was I learned on how do we look at processes, whether it's in government or in businesses or any other organization, and then how do we make it more efficient by automating those processes and using technology. That is my degree. So I feel that's exactly what the approach I want to take is figure out, okay, let's utilize technology. And so when I was in the gas station business, I told you I sort of moved up the ranks. I used to used to take about a year, about 1 hour for me to do the paperwork for last session or the day before. Using technology, Excel spreadsheets 20 years ago at that time, I was able to cut that down to 15 minutes. So I saved 45 minutes, which I could now utilize on talking to customers and doing orders and vendors and all that. So that's the kind of approach that we will take here. This is not like the federal government department that we're doing. Now, the second thing is, I mean, we may have some savings in that, right? We'll see where it is. Obviously, if there's fraud, abuse, and waste going on, we want to make it not happen and improve that. But we'll work on efficiency from the technology perspective. The second thing you asked about was on voucher bill, right? So this is the largest sort of bill that is going to take money away from public schools and give it to private schools. It's almost like $1 billion. Especially at a time where we have not funded our public schools. I don't think it's a great idea to be putting resources out to private schools that are not held accountable to the same status or same accountability metrics as the public schools. They don't have to take all the students. So I think it sounds really amazing for any parent in the state of Texas to say, oh, I'm going to get $8,000, I'm going to get $10,000. Great, you may get it. But if the private school doesn't accept you, guess what? Well, you're not going to be able to get it, right? So it is not a school choice program. It is a school's choice because the school gets to decide whether you can take the kid or not. And so if you're disabled, if you're, have something, extraordinary circumstance that you need to be taken care of, private school may say, hey, we can't take you. They can deny anybody for any reason. So I think that's the misnomer that you have where people are touting this as a school choice program. Right now, you and I have a choice right now in the state of Texas. We could send our kids to public schools. We could send our kids to public charter schools. We could send our kids to private schools. All of the options are available to us. But what this bill talks about is we'll only give money to the select few that get accepted by private schools. And guess who those are? It'll most likely be the wealthiest.
Who are
already exactly sending their kids to private schools. So we're actually subsidizing private school tuition for the wealthy. That's how it's end up going. Because think about it, an average tuition fees in the state of Texas for private school is $20,000. Okay, we'll give $10,000. Okay, but if there's a family that is not able to make ends meet, how are they going to find $10,000? And how are they going to drop their kids and pick their kids from school? Because guess what? There's no public schools. There's no transportation. So how is everything going to happen? So it's really difficult. And then let's look at the states that have already adopted voucher programs. Look at Arizona. They're in a big, huge deficit. So it starts with the $1 billion. It may get down to $5 billion. Who knows where it ends up? And as anything in the government, if you start a program and you earmark a certain amount of money, it will grow in the decades down the road. And guess what? We don't have the funds today. We may have the funds from all the sales tax revenue that we're getting and whatnot, but tomorrow we may not. And so are we bankrupting our state to give private school tuitions? And what is it going to achieve? I don't understand. Let's fully fund our public schools, because that's another issue that was happening with vouchers. I can take money away from public schools and say, hey, look how bad they're doing, right? But it is a problem that I create in that scenario where I'm not funding the public schools and saying they're doing a bad job. But if I fully fund it and then say, okay, let's see now, teachers have not gone a raise, as you know, Gwen. I mean, you've been a teacher. We have not paid our teachers a living wage for a long, long time. 2019 was the last increase. And so we need to do that and increase the basic allotment. There's another bill out there for school finance, HB2, that talks that initially says it's a $9 billion allocation. But if you look at it for school safety, not as much going to increase allotment. It's only $220 increase in allotment. And in order to get to 2019 levels, with inflation, it's going to be $7,500. We need to have that. And right now we're at $6,200 or something per pupil funding. So Texas is the 46th or 43rd state in the nation in terms of per pupil funding. So we're in the last sort of 5 or 6, and that's not good for any measure.
Especially when we're what are we, the number 12 economy in the world? And
Number 8th economy in the world.
Eighth economy
largest
in the
economy in the
world.
world. We just surpassed Russia. And guess what? This economy needs workforce that is trained well, that's educated well, and we need to pay them well in order to, or fund it well so that way they can get better education.
Yeah, no arguments there, Representative. We definitely. So I'm glad you are fighting for that, and you are speaking the truth on the subject. And you're right. So thank you so much for fighting for that. I do know that you had that. You are short on time, so I am so thankful that you have joined us. One thing I do want to ask you to do is look to get your priorities accomplished. What do you need from us as citizens? What actionable items can we do to make sure that you can fight for the good, the good bills that you're fighting for happen?
Yeah, I think let everybody know to reach out to their state representatives and say vouchers are not a good idea. You need to fully fund education, increase basic allotment without earmarking certain amount of money for school safety. What if somebody doesn't want to hire the school safety officer in their school? They'd lose the money. So we're just sort of incentivizing more school safety officers as opposed to putting money in classrooms. Classroom money is more important right now at this point than anything else. So don't tie a district's hands by saying, earmarking that money. Give it to them, and then they will decide what's best for their schools. But reach out to their senators, and I think that is the number one thing I can tell you all, especially right now. If it passes if it goes on the House floor, it's too late. So do it when it's in the committee. Come to testify. Come in Austin. I know there's not a lot of notice given, but we'll let you know as soon as we can. Come to Austin and testify, against those bills and for the bills that are good for you all.
So go to Austin, make your voice heard. You can also contact your representative. But I also want to say that a lot of people think just because they did not vote for a certain representative, that it won't matter, their voice won't matter. But would you agree that it's important to still?
Yeah, I tell my staff all the time, if there's a constituent that drives all the way from my district to come to Austin, I'm going to meet them, whether I'm on the House floor, whether I'm doing anything in the world, because they're the most important people that I'm fighting for. So I think a lot of members will have that same approach. So let them know that you're the constituent and you want to meet them. They should be able to give you time. Or if not, then they'll be at least have the staff's ear there. And sometimes staff tells the representatives here's how you can vote. So that may be better.
Okay. Well, that is good food for thought and good action. So thank you so much, Representative Bhojani. We appreciate you joining us, and keep doing the good work at the State House.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do as well. You take care.
Thank you. Thank you.